Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Anton. So we're back with a brand new video, and I just wanted to show you guys how to migrate your code from version 11 to version 12 in Discord JS. It's actually very easy. It's nothing too complicated. Before you even get started, a couple things. You want to make sure you have Node.js version 12, and you also want to make sure that before you migrate, I would suggest you save a backup of your code just in case something goes wrong. You never know what could happen, so just make sure you save your code, save like a copy of your folder or something, or if you have it on GitHub, that's even better. But just make sure you have that backup copy in case something goes wrong and you need to revert to your previous changes. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So assuming that you have a version 11 project, so I have a simple project over here that has version 11. As you can see, if we go into the package.json file, it's version 11. If I if I restart the bot, let me just run my bot real quick. You can see that we have one project running on version 11.6.4 and another project running on 12.1.1. Okay. And so right over here, let's say if I wanted to change this to version 12, the best thing to do is to delete your node modules folder. Okay, so let's just have that delete. And then you're going to go ahead and leave the caret sign. You're going to do 12.1.1 and you're going to save. And before we do anything else, I'm going to go inside this folder. So we're going to go inside the version 11 folder and I'm going to reinstall all of my dependencies. So npm I is just going to install all of your dependencies that are listed here. If I run my, let me just go ahead and cd out of here. Let me run my bot again. And then you can see that it's both of our projects are running on version 12.1.1. Okay, so let me just go ahead and downgrade this back down to version 11. So we're going to just remove this 11.6.4, save, delete the node modules folder. And we can do, let's cd back to the version 11 folder and just rerun that command so we can get back to the version that we want. Okay, there we go. So let's just go back out again. Let's run our script real quick. And we're on both different versions. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you wanted to get users by ID in version 11, the easiest thing to do is to reference the users object. So let's say if we wanted to do it in the ready event, we would reference the client object because the client object has a property called users, and this is a collection. In version 12, client.users is a collection. Okay, likewise, every other property that you ever see, such as guild.members, guild.roles, guild.channels, those are all collections. Okay, and we're going to go through them in just a sec. But if I want to get a user by its ID, I would do client.user.get. I would pass in the ID, so I can go ahead and just grab my ID real quick. And let's go back here to our code, and we can just pass in our string. Let me actually assign this to a variable. So let's just do const user equals client.users.get. I can do console log user.tag. If I save the code, it's going to say my username right over here. Okay, there we go. That's very easy. Now, if I wanted to do this in version 12, what we would do is we would reference client.users, but this time, client.users in version 12 is not a collection. It's a user manager. So that is one major change that you need to understand. In version 12, they introduced the concept of managers, okay? And pretty much you won't be able to reference or use the collection methods like you used to before. So for example, let's say before we were able to use .get or .find on a collection to find users by, let's say, their ID or their name. We can't do that anymore in version 12. Okay, but the nice thing is that the manager, let me actually see if I can pull up the documentation. The manager class, where is it? Right over here, has a property called cache, and this cache pretty much holds all of the cache data for you. So you can kind of think of it like the same thing as the collection in version 11, but in order to actually get the collection that you want, you just have to reference the cache. If you actually click on it, you can see that the type is a collection, and a collection is a map. Okay, so let's go back here and let's go here. And so now if I go back to our version 12 code, if I do client.users.cache, okay, and we're going to do .get, and we're going to paste in that ID, And let's just do the same thing here. Const user, const user equals client users.cache.gets. Okay, and let's just console log this to the console. Okay. Now if we save, you're gonna see that version 12 just loaded up and version 11 just loaded up, and it's the same thing. Okay, very simple, right? So pretty much any collection that you used to deal with before is now a manager. So let's look at a couple other examples. Let's just say if I wanted to get a channel in the guild by its name. Okay, so what I would do is, let's say if I want to get inside the ready event, I can do const channel. So in version 11 now, we would do const channel equals client.channels, and let's say we want to find it by a name, right? Because when we use .get, we know what the ID is beforehand. But let's say we don't know what the ID is, and we just want to find some channel by some kind of predicate, right? In this case, we'll search by its name. So do client.channels.find, and we're going to go ahead and pass in the callback function, which takes in the channel object as a parameter. So that's ch, we're just naming it ch. We're going to do ch.name equals, and let's go ahead and find the welcome channel. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's do equals welcome. Okay, and let's just console log this to the log real quick. There we go, it says welcome. Okay, that's how it's done in version 11. Remember, in version 11, client.channels is a collection. In version 12, client.channels is not a collection, but client.channels is a manager, and more specifically, it is a guild channel manager. Okay, we look at the documentation, and this is version 12 documentation, by the way. If we click on, where is it, channels, you can see this is a channel manager. Well, I said guild channel manager, I really meant channel manager, because we're referencing it on the client object. If we were to reference this on the guild object, guild.channels would actually be, where is it? It has to be here somewhere. There we go. Guild channel manager. Okay. So over here, we can go ahead and do const channel equals client dot channels dot cache dot get, and then we're going to go ahead and actually wait, I'm sorry. We're going to do dot find, and let's go ahead and do ch. I wonder if there's like maybe another predicate I could use to find. Let's go ahead and just do the same thing, I guess. So do ch.name equals, let's find a different channel. Let's do role-menu. And let's console log the channel's name. If we go ahead and look at the console, you're going to see version 11, version 12. Okay, it's literally, obviously it's a different concept, but it's literally not that difficult to, it's really not that much harder than it was in version 11. You just have to pretty much reference one more property, which is the cache property on the manager itself. Okay, and you can pretty much guess that all of the other collections that you worked with are now managers, and you can see that if we scroll through the documentation, let me actually go ahead and see if I can jump to the managers part real quick. Yeah, so you can see if we, let's say for example, if we wanted to get a member by its ID, let's say if we wanted to, you know, give a role to someone as well. Again, the same concept. Okay, so let's probably do this inside the, let's go ahead and let me comment this part out. Whoops, let me comment all this stuff out. And all right, so we're gonna go ahead and just do a simple if message.content.to lowercase that starts with, and we're gonna just check to see if the string or the message starts with hyphen kick. We're going to do let ID. We're going to get the ID of the user. So we're going to do message.content.split. We're going to split the content by a space because we're going to do hyphen kick and then the space ID of the user. So we're going to go ahead and find the member now. So let's do let member equal. Actually, I should use const because we're not changing the values of these variables. So let me go ahead and do message.guild. We want to reference the members property. Okay, and like I said, in version 11, Guild.members is a collection, so we can just easily do .get and then pass in the ID and check to see if the member exists. And if the member does exist, we're just going to pretend like we kicked them. Kicked. And let's do member.user.tag. And if they don't exist, you know what? Let me actually just send this as a message. I don't know why I keep console logging channel. Let's send. Okay, and if they weren't found, we'll just do member not found. So let's just save that. Our bot should restart. Okay, so if I want to do a kick, I can just do something like kick and then do that, and it's going to say member not found. If I want to kick, let's say this bot, for example, I can do kick bot. Wait, what? Let's see. Oh, whoops. That was silly. Let me go ahead and do that. Because this returns an array, so ID is actually an array. So I need to get the ID, the actual ID, which is at position 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that again. There we go, we kicked the bot. We didn't actually kick it, but you guys get the idea. Okay, and in version 12, literally, it's the same exact thing, but the only difference is that we have to reference the cache, and then if I save, if I do this again, it should print it out twice. Both bots send out the response. One of my favorite things are partials, which allow us to handle uncached data. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to react to a message, in version 11, we would have to use the raw event to handle reactions on uncached data. Okay, in version 12, we can opt into reaction and message partials so that every single time we react to a non-cached message, the library itself will emit the message reaction add event. So I'll show you guys that real quick. So we're going to go inside the bot.js file first, and I'll show you guys the pretty ridiculous thing that we had to do before the partials came out. So let's just say if I wanted to listen to the message reaction add event, and if I did reaction comma user, and let's just do a simple console log reaction.emoji.name, and then let's just do console log reaction.user.tag. Oh wait, I'm sorry, it's user.tag. Okay, now if I go ahead and if I save, and our bot should restart, if I react to this message over here, nothing is logged to the console. But if I type a message, and if I, why is it doing that? I have some broken code over there, and you can see over here that it's being logged to the console, right? That's because this message is cached. So in version 12, if we wanted, in version 11, if we wanted to listen to reactions on messages that were not in the cache, we would have to actually listen to the raw event. So we would have to do a client on raw, and this takes in a payload, and then the payload object itself had a lot of different properties. So I think one of the properties was t, so const event name is payload.t. And if we log the event name to the console, you're going to see it's going to say null, ready, guild create. Okay. But let's say, for example, if I react to this message over here, which is not in the cache, you're going to see message reaction add event was logged to the console, and that's in the raw event, right? And if you've seen some of my role reaction videos, what we had to do is we had to pretty much check to see if the emoji was the correct emoji. We had to check to see if the person reacted to the correct message. And then we had to, fetch the message and whatnot. We had to manually emit the client. We had to manually emit the message reaction add event. And it was a whole lot of work. Okay, and it was not really supported in the documentation as well. So it was never really supported to use the raw event, but this was just the workaround loophole to, handle reactions. Okay, but in version 12, the whole process is so much easier. Instead of doing all of that, what we can do in version 12 is we can simply opt into partials by going inside the parentheses inside client right over here, where we are instantiating the client class. We're going to pass in an object, and we're going to specify the partials property, and we're going to opt in to the correct partials. In this case, we're going to opt into reaction. and we're going to opt into message. And you can see there were actually other partials too that you can opt into, but that really just depends on your use case. So we're going to save. And now if I want to listen to the message reaction add events, reaction user, and I know I have 2 bots running right now. But let's say if I do console log reaction .emoji.name, console log user.tag. Okay, and if I go back into the bot, where were we? Okay, if I go back here, and now we're on version 12 right over here. So if I react to this message now, this is being logged in version 12, and let me actually do this. Yeah, let me actually just get rid of that. Okay, but yeah, that was being logged in version this over here. Okay, and so let's do that again. So let's react, and notice how, what's going on? What? One sec. There we go. I don't know why that didn't show up. Okay. Yeah, you can see that it's, let me just restart the bot just to make sure that everything's good. Okay, so both our bots logged in. Let's react to the message now. You can see the emoji is being logged and my username is being logged just as we have right over here. Okay, and now, and what you would do is if you wanted to, handle the reactions and stuff, if you wanted to get like things like the reaction count, you can just simply fetch the reaction. And if you want to deal with the message as well, you just have to fetch the message, and everything else just becomes much more easier. And it's the same thing with message reaction remove events. In version 11, you would have to handle the raw event and listen and check to see if the event was message reaction remove. In version 12, you can just opt into partials, and that'll take care of everything for you. Okay, so yeah, hopefully that concludes the partials part, because I know some people were pretty confused with it. It's the same thing with it's the same thing with any type of data that you're dealing that's not in the cache. Messages are not going to be in the cache forever, and if you actually do keep in the cache forever, there's a chance that your bot's probably going to crash at some point. And so let's say if we wanted to listen to message delete events, so in version 11, let's say if I want to do client on message delete, and of course this would give us a collection of messages that were deleted. Or I'm sorry, not collection. I was confused with bulk delete. This would give us the message object that was deleted. Okay, so let's do console log message. If I save, okay, and if I go ahead and if I delete this message over here, notice how nothing's being logged to the console. But if I type, okay, and if I delete this message, that message was logged to the console. Okay, you can see that it has all the data of the message over here, right? Message object, it has the channel ID, content, etc. If I delete the bot message, which is also in the cache, it's going to log that to the console as well, which is pretty cool. Okay, right? And in version 11, and so in version 12, you can actually just opt into partials. So every single time a message is deleted, whether it's in the cache or not, it will emit the message delete event. We've already opted into the message partial already, so we don't have to opt in again. We're just going to do message. Let's just log the content of the message just to make things simple. So if I save, and if I go ahead and if I delete this message over here, see how it says our bot didn't start up yet. Let me do this again. Okay, delete the message. Our bot still hasn't started up yet. Okay, there we go. And notice how it's saying undefined, but the message is actually being deleted. Okay, so the message delete event is still being emitted, even though the message is not in the cache, but you actually can't get the content of it. Okay, but if I type and if I delete the message, you're gonna see that we can actually get the content of it. Okay, when you delete a message, it's gone, right? And there's no way you can fetch that message, so you can't get the content of it. So if the message is not in the cache, in version 12, if you opt into the message partial, it will still emit that event, but you just won't be able to get the actual content of the message. Okay, you can probably get other fields and properties, such as I think the channel, but you can't get the content of it. Okay, but if in the cache though, then you can if it's in the cache though, then it'll work just normally. Okay, cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to, show a quick demonstration on how simple it is to really migrate from version 11 to version 12. And like I said, there are so many changes. Just go through the documentation, spend some time, read through it. I highly recommend it. It's worth it and rewarding in the long run. If you need additional help, feel free to join my Discord server, and we have people helping people all the time, so don't be afraid to ask a question. And yeah, that's it. I will see you guys in my next video. Peace.